Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cynical Marketers. This is episode 2.3, season 2, episode 3, 55 total. So we're rolling right along. This week, we're going to talk about attribution. So we're not going to bury the lead for people. We're going to talk attribution. If you're interested in it, our thoughts on it. And this is an obsession with a lot of businesses.
It sure
How
is,
do we get our sales? What can we attribute to? Where should we put our budget towards? You know, how do we properly give attribution to all these different channels we're working in? So very important driver for all of our clients too.
It
and
really
I have
is,
kind of I have my view on it, and we'll see what you guys think. Right?
You start, Mike.
Well, so obviously everybody wants attribution. And for me, this has been a thing because there's so many people now who grew up in the marketing world and coming up through finance, accounting, and everywhere. In the digital marketing space, we had such good attribution for so many years. We had all this data. People are just so addicted to that data that we used to have because there was less privacy. We knew everything. Back in the day when I first started doing Facebook ads, we knew everything, And then over time, as privacy has come in, right, that those data points have eroded and attribution has gotten harder and harder and more difficult. But so many people are addicted to it. And you get people like CFOs and stuff who knew how things were in one way when they were in the trenches, but now they're at this level. They are lagging behind how things have changed. Yeah. And that hasn't reached them yet. They're like, no, we need to know. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that anymore. And no matter what you're talking about, attribution on your email, attribution on social, on your website, SEO, your organic, what is it? Your GA4 isn't accurate. And that is, Google doesn't give you accurate analytics. They give you enough analytics for them to say like, hey, this is kind of a trend for you to look at, right? So I think there's been an addiction to this data, and that has been one of the big challenges for a lot of people because they don't know what to do for marketing if they don't have all this data to rely on. And they've been using their data incorrectly, and they're not really marketing folks, they're more analysts. And that's my strength, to be honest, analysis and that, but I am also creative. I am also creative, and I use those data points to come up with strategies to say, this is where I think we should go. But I think there's so many people who've been too addicted to this stuff. And now that, privacy is getting stronger and stronger, which for me in the marketing world, as a human too, who is subjected to marketing, that doesn't bother me. Right. I know it bothers a lot of marketing folks like, oh, this is unfair. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you're a person too. So
it was a big deal with email, right? A couple of years ago when Apple and Google both changed their privacy settings. And then all of a sudden we were getting reports of fake open rates, and that really changed. I mean, for those of us that have been in retention, Mike, I remember when open rates leaped for no other reason than privacy changes from like an average of 20 to 25% to like 50+%. And then it's having to explain to folks that are not, like you said, are not in the trenches with us of what changed. And all of a sudden, were you not marketing the right way before? And then I'm expecting my sales to double because my open rates doubled, which was a discussion I've had so many times. But it's like, nope, that is not how it works. So definitely a ton of the privacy changes have impacted, especially on the retention side, how attribution works. And it's why tools like Klaviyo and Postscript and Attentive and pretty much any email and SMS tool by default has a 7-day attribution, which if you are sending emails every single day, which some brands are, a lot more than should be, if you're sending emails pretty frequently, they will trump on each other. It is not a true attribution. If I get 3 emails from a brand, one on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? And I opened the Monday one, and I don't open Wednesday or Friday, don't click, don't interact, and then on Saturday, I go to the website and purchase, Friday email will get the attribution in most cases, right? Like depending on your settings. And that's not really it's not really accurate because I didn't interact with that email. I interacted with something earlier in the week. but because I was sent the email, Klaviyo will take the attribution, right? Like, it is really messy how it's set up, and occasionally it happens to where it will then contribute to even the email that I've clicked through, even though that I didn't actually buy from there. So I always tell people, like, or at least like our clients, oh, of course, we have to look at revenue that is generated by each campaign and each flow for your emails and SMS. And of course, we're going to use the native tool to compare growth in those channels. But your $5,000 revenue from an email campaign that Klaviyo shows does not equal your $5,000 in Shopify sales. You understand what I'm saying, but most people don't get that part, which is why I'm always like, does it really matter? Like I've said in so many meetings when I was with with Noggin on the agency side, and then prior to that on the client side, working internally for a company where we've argued attribution to no end. And I am a fan of, like, does it matter what channel brought the sale? Are we not more concerned about why people buy? Like, that's what I'm more concerned with. I guess I don't pay too much attention to attribution. Never really have. I mean, I want my channels to grow and I want that trend to be upward, but I'm not married to those numbers when it comes to attribution.
Yeah, I know what you mean. For me, there's things I think you just are going to do as a course of running your business and marketing it. So what are you going to not do some of these things? That doesn't make any sense, right? Not do social media? Why? Why would you not do social media? It's free.
Yeah.
But
we get so much pushback on that, though.
I get pushback all the time on that, right?
Yeah.
I guess, if you're doing other techniques, like if you want to buy billboards or something, how do you get your good attribution, right? You have to have your call to action or a code or something on the billboard to know that was the thing that did it.
Right.
And, or you run a magazine ad, or if you're going to do some of the other traditional things, a direct mail campaign or something, But again, these are things you're just going to do. Because one of the things that we've lost in the digital time with the addiction to this data is brand building. Nobody does it. Everything is performance marketing. You will get asked, well, if I do this and you want this, how much am I going to make from it? Well, why would we do that?
Yeah.
Well, because you're building your brand too, and people are like, well, social media doesn't work for anybody anymore. You can look at analytics and there's no referrals from social media, so it's useless. Really? Well, yeah, you're not going to get any social media referrals anymore because you can't put links in anything.
Right.
But what about your direct traffic? What about branded search? How do you think branded search happens?
Right.
And if you're out there and you don't know, branded search is when, you are John Smith's accounting and somebody goes in and types in John Smith's accounting or Smith's accounting, some way with your brand name in there. They Google that.
Right.
How do you think that happened?
Googling your business.
Right. What do you think happened that triggered that? So you're doing those things and you're trying to you want direct traffic and branded search because those things are going to convert at a higher rate than your PPC campaigns are going to. Because in PPC and SEO, you are competing against other businesses as well who can do the exact same things you are doing. And all it takes is, we're losing on PPC right now. Okay, I'll increase the budget. Can you increase yours? Because if you can't, you're going to lose an arms race in PPC. And you're all out there using the same Google Ads experts, getting the same advice, doing the exact same strategies.
Or using ChatGPT.
Everyone's doing the exact same stuff on that.
Yeah, I just saw somebody post a video on how to do SEO for a specific service type business using ChatGPT. And I was like, do people realize that you're following this advice? Great, right? But everybody else in your industry who would have seen this video will probably do the same. So you're essentially, you are doing the same thing everybody else is doing. Like, yes, some of these gurus and whatever that are like, oh, do this and it will increase that. Yes, but also if you and I are both, lawyers, right? And we're going to do the same exact thing on our website using the ChatGPT, the same ChatGPT prompt, getting the same results. What's the point? Like, you need to know your audience better than that, in my opinion. It just, And you need to be where they are. Like the organic social media is one of those that we constantly fight, especially with small businesses who are not understanding the value. Because like you said, Mike, everybody is addicted to, I do X, I must see Y in return. You know, it drives me nuts. I mean, on the retention side, we always say retention channels should be about 30% of your revenue. And we vaguely measure that by the attributions that we do see in the platforms compared to the rest of your revenue. But I always tell clients, like, understand that these platforms will show a higher attribution. They will take that last click attribution sale because they want to show that they're effective. Otherwise, because of the mindset that you're speaking about, Mike, people will just, I mean, we had somebody who was like, I don't think I should do email marketing anymore. We're like, it's me. Like, what are you talking about? You know, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, here's how much money you've made last year doing email marketing. Let's say it's a percentage, even a percentage of that is more than zero. Like, you'd had none of these sales had you not done this. So to me, it's just interesting how people get so married to those attribution numbers, and then they're paralyzed by it. They don't want to see the whole picture. They just want to, like, they think all in on one or two channels that they're seeing perform well and through their attribution tools is the way to go. And you're like, no, you got to do all the things.
PPC and SEO, right? PPC, pay-per-click, Google Ads, and SEO. Those are the two things that most businesses heavily focus on, to the detriment of there's just no brand building out there. And then some of these brands who do it, you know, I always use an example, right, of like Nike. Or here's a good one, that perfect. Red Bull is an example of this. What does Red Bull do on their social media? Absolutely nothing to do with the product that they sell. All of their stuff is about engagement, high energy, exciting, you know, crazy cool stuff that people are doing because that is our brand. That's who we are. And they use social media as their discovery tool for people who are just going to go watch this crazy Red Bull stunt happen. Right. You know? And then they have other things to sell, but they use their social media to get out there in front of people. Yeah. You know, Nike does this. Nike, their stuff isn't about selling. Do you see a Nike commercial that ever says, we just released this new product, it's on sale now for $9.99 or whatever, right? No, it's all aspirational stuff. It's athletes doing hard and cool things, you know? And that's about building a brand. And then when you bring these things up to people, everyone's like, oh, our business is too special for that. Nobody would get that. Like, of course, it's easy for consumer products. Crazy. Yeah, it's easy for a consumer product. Like, yeah, of course, consumer product marketing is always so easy. Yeah. Compared to the services. You know, we have had a lack of brand building out there, and it's a bad word. And I used to say this too. Well, at Grunstyle, I felt as the CMO, like the brand was the CMO's one of my core responsibilities, you know? Yeah. And I was out always trying to do things to expand the brand, get seen by more people, get into more spaces, you know, and I always view that as one of the CMO's responsibilities. But, you know, you don't need the CMO running pay-per-click campaigns every day, you know, but we had this problem with it. And the problem then, when you heavily index towards pay-per-click and SEO, these are things that everybody can do. And this is funny, you know, we know this in the marketing world. When you're talking to a business, their first question will be, do you have experience in our field? And then, so what happens there is, so you're an accountant, and the accountant only wants to work with like an SEO group who's done other accounting firms. So then they have done that exact same strategy they're pitching to you, to every other accounting firm they've ever worked with. Now they're going to do it for you. And now with AI, your SEO should be pretty easy to do. Errors can be found, you know, your stuff's going to be perfect. You can pump out content. And even if you want to say now it's about AI, you know, AEO, whatever, as if anyone even knows what the signals are for that. That's all people pretending they know the answers on how to get cited. And again, as if that even truly really is the thing that matters, you know, because you guys are all going to fight over PPC stuff and SEO. And that is an arms race. And you have to be there to compete, because you don't want to exit that space and then give that space up because somebody will fill in the void.
Right, right,
So you're there to compete and play defense, really.
right.
But you need to do that brand building, or you're just, you're going to fight over keywords month in and month out. And some months you're going to go up, and then your competitor's going to react and have a new SEO agency. Then next month you're going to lose ranking on a couple of keywords and everyone's going to panic. And it could have been like, hey, you find a unique thing about you, the why that people buy from you, Nada, that you said. Why do people buy from you, and start building your brand around that?
That's the thing that I always like, and you had brought this up in another conversation, Mike, where people are like, how did you hear about us? And yeah, that's a nice to have. You know what I do when I see that form? It's Instagram every time. I don't know how I heard about you.
Oh, what's the first answer on the drop down?
Like whatever is the first, whatever I can click on the most conveniently is how I heard about you. If you're a brand, don't put too much value on that. Like you genuinely have to show up in every channel. That's a non-negotiable in 2026. Like that, literally non-negotiable. Obviously it's gonna vary where and with how much budget you can show up, depending on your business and your size and your goals. But you have to show up. And like you said, I mean, this is, the tried and true truth, Mike, that you have brought up in many of our podcasts. People have to see you like 8 different times to even remember you. And so just because I went and searched John Smith's accounting on Google doesn't mean that, I didn't see a paid ad on Instagram, that I didn't see a post on TikTok, that I didn't see. So just because that Google search link gets the click, that doesn't mean that is your top performing. I wouldn't have known about you otherwise, right? So it's so hard to explain to businesses that, like, don't be so married to your attribution to the point where you're making bad business decisions based on this data. This is what that catalog company used to do that I used to work for. We would everything. I mean, if you had received, we used to send like 2 to 3 emails a day. This was the strategy. This was the audience that would respond to this type of like volume. But then catalog, because this was a catalog company and was traditionally a catalog company, the attribution model was built as such to give catalog the most attribution. Because if you had shopped through a catalog at any point, regardless of what had brought you back to the site, if you received a catalog, you were getting, that sale was attributed to catalog. And it was the most frustrating thing, because you're like, then you're not so focused on making decisions around believing that catalog is your most successful and best performing channel, and you're neglecting others. By the way, this company is out of business now as of December. They were sold to somebody else. That
the hard thing for businesses is that
with the data.
Brand building is a very much a lagging indicator. It takes time for brand building efforts to show up positively or negatively. So if you've been doing it, right? So this is the discussion I've had with CFOs. They'll look at numbers and be like, hey, our paid stuff here, PPC SEO, is doing this. Like, why am I even spending on branding? Because we're getting this. We can cut this. And then if they do, you will have a window of time after that where you look much more efficient and your numbers will get better. More efficient anyway. Yeah. Your PPC and SEO may not change, but your spend has gone down. So your acquisition costs might improve. Your ROI improves a bit. It looks like the health of your numbers gets better for a bit. And then after a couple of months, then as your branding disappearance sets in, things start to degrade. And then you get the misattribution of why you're degrading, where people are like, our SEO and PPC is not performing now. We need to fix this. What's going wrong? You're looking at these things that you're running and you're attributing a decline to those things because it was 4 months ago you cut branding and things went well after that. So you are not attributing that to your lack of brand awareness anymore. So you get this window of time where things look better, and then it's not diagnosed correctly when there is a problem. And as a marketing person, we always lose these fights. Marketing loses. Marketing never wins against, the finance guy, CFO. You fight it so much, you'll just get fired. And they'll replace you with somebody who, oh, okay, yes, Mr. CFO.
Right.
Whatever you want, sir. So it's such a challenge. And
Yeah.
I have worked, you find ways, you have to look for metrics that you can kind of point, because you got to remember accountants and CFO types, they're numbers people. They're not going to understand.
100% for sure.
So you got to try and tell them a story with a number of something that you can attribute. So you've got to figure that out. If you cannot, and I'm not saying that all brand building is unattributable, right? It's okay, just spend blindly. There are numbers to look at and things to do. You still have to be able to tell the story to the C-suite, a board probably, depending on what level of marketing you're at, your boss. You have to be able to tell this story effectively. So this is a skill lost by a lot of marketers too, because they have automatic dashboards and stuff. They don't really know their numbers either. So they're not looking for things like manual record numbers every day in spreadsheets for brands on a lot of different things. Are there easier ways to do it now? Of course. But I do it this way because I know the numbers then immediately. I see an immediate change, right? And this is how I spot trends and do things. We've lost that skill because there's so many just dashboards created. And then the dashboards are usually at the very end. What were sales today? Or how many leads came in yesterday? And you're like, okay, well, that was true, but where'd they come from? How, why, what was working? So we've lost a lot of skills in marketing because of a digital reliance.
Yeah. And on the tools that are not the cleanest and don't account for what actually drives your customers to buy. So
why did they buy? I think that's, of the, the 5 W's, who, what, where, why, when, and how.
Yeah.
Why? We talk about this. We have a class on this. We've taught, for you to set up kind of your marketing program and do a plan. Can you answer those questions? But the why did people buy from you? Why did they buy from you? Number one, and why did they not?
Right.
Why did they go with somebody else? What was it? Do you know that?
Right.
The no report, I call this when you're working in brands with sales teams, hey, sales, what were your no's this week?
Right. Right.
Why did some of the leads that you talked to say no, not interested or anything? Don't just, sales will go into Salesforce and click the first thing in a drop down. If when sales marks a closed lost, it will always be because it was a bad lead.
100%.
But you'll never get accurate data. They'll mark it for whatever is not sales' fault.
Yep.
And the VP of sales will of course support that. The VP of sales is not in the business either of having accurate data.
Yeah.
Certainly not accurate data that might point the finger at sales.
Right.
So, whatever. Right. So that's our thing with attribution, right? Like worry more about your customer. Do you actually know your customer? Do you know what they want?
Yeah.
What their needs are, their want, what their pain points are, what are their issues? What is it that you do for them? And why should they buy from you?
Yeah.
Why you? That's what you need to be out there
That's
talking
what you need
about.
to be worried about. Yeah. Agreed, Mike.
You make people understand that you are the answer to whatever their issue is. You will get the sales.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on winning.
It's not really that
keyword battle.
Exactly. That's
right,
our take. It's an unpopular take, but
it's never popular. I am isolated on a hill on that one, on my view here.
Well,
because I obviously, like the CFO's responsibility, and of course I will bag right on CFOs, but look, they have a job and they have KPIs to hit too.
Yeah.
And they have to explain what's going on with the money to somebody. So somebody better explain to them what's going on with the money
Yeah.
So
very true.
It makes it tough in marketing these days for sure, but
but that's okay. I don't know.
That's the way business runs.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So there we go, folks. Thank you for tuning in again this week. We appreciate it. As always, if you're still here anyway.
Hi, Lance.
What do you think about attribution? I don't know. We're going to ask. We're supposed to do these CTA things, these calls to action.
What you think in comments? Follow, subscribe, whatever the things are. That's all right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. The shorts anyway. People might watch the shorts on this. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you again next week.